to All Seasons Podcast. I'm your host, LoLo Paz, a nurse, rainbow mama, holistic health nerd, and entrepreneur. This isn't your typical podcast. Some episodes are raw and juicy conversations, and others are mindful practices that will leave you encouraged. Together, we're creating a space that bridges the gap between black and white faith and the gray of real life. We will explore all things in all seasons of life, from loss, mental health, faith, motherhood, and holistic wellness. Come as you are, my friend. Let's jump right in. Guys, I'm so excited to talk about fear today. It's so random to say that, but it's true. And I'm excited to talk about this today because it's a universal emotion. It's something that we do not get through life without experiencing and confronting our fears. And now, the relationship that we have with fear undoubtedly totally dictates the direction of our life, the depth, the richness of our life. How much we allow our fear to interject or hold us down and keep us small completely changes the way that we move through life. So, doesn't it almost behoove us to examine this relationship, this companionship that we will have with our fears? So, today I'm going to introduce you guys to something that I found years ago. It's called fear setting, and it's an exercise to help us really understand and get nitty gritty with the fears that are holding us back and keeping us small so that we can finally be freed up to really see our fears for what they are, which is really just a lot of projection and not a lot of reality. And it's really an empowering thing to do. So, you guys have probably heard of goal setting. You've probably done all the goal setting things. So have I, which those have a time and place. But there's also a time and place for really getting honest with ourselves and our fear. I do this practice whenever I'm feeling like in fawn or freeze mode, when I am, or fight or flight. But most of the time, I find that when I'm allowing a fear to really capture my heart and kind of like paralyze me, is the feeling that I get. So if you guys have maybe had a dream, an aspiration, but fear kind of comes in and it tells you, no, you can't do that. No, that's too risky. This exercise is just for you. So, if you're listening, you can do this exercise later and just kind of listen. But if you have a pen and paper in front of you, go ahead and grab that. If you have a full size paper, go ahead and I want you to fold it hot dog and hamburger. So that bring back any memories from elementary school. But basically, you want four quadrants. And we're going to talk about what we're going to write in each of these four quadrants. And for the sake of time, we're just going to kind of focus on one fear, but I really encourage you to come back to the drawing board and really just go for it. Set out all the fears that are holding you back. But this is basically how fear setting works. You list your fear, you speak it out, and that in and of itself actually has a lot of power. Putting pen to paper, it's amazing. So go ahead and write down your fear. Let's say that you really want to write a book. I'm talking about myself. I really want to write a book. I have so many fears around writing a book, that it's going to fail, that I'm not going to be able to get it published, that nobody, even if it does get published, nobody's going to read it. I'm going to make a fool of myself. All these things, right? That I'm telling myself that I'm fearful of. So go ahead and write out what your fear is. And it's always connected to a dream. Isn't that interesting? Hmm, interesting. God did not give us a spirit of fear, my friends. Um, okay, so now that's in your one quadrant. Your next quadrant over, ways that you could reduce or avoid the fearful outcomes. So these outcomes that you're so afraid of, what are some ways that you can mitigate? Not like guarantee that it's not going to happen, but for me, let's say, okay, I could talk to some friends who have, published books. I can start having conversations with publishers and see, like, what does this process even really look like? A lot of times fear is just so much of the unknown. So if we can start to chip away at some of like the path ahead by mitigating some of these things, and being a little bit more proactive, oftentimes fear just kind of shuffles off. And so really writing down the ways that you can avoid or reduce these fearful outcomes. Okay, now in your third quadrant, or the third thing where you're going to write down, if the worst thing happens, what are you going to do to repair? This is so important. So I'll use my example of the book. So let's say I publish this book and nobody reads it. Okay, that's a fear. But if that were to actually happen, what would I do to repair? Well, actually, I would just be so damn proud of myself for writing the dang thing. I wouldn't really care actually how many people read it. I would probably have learned so much. I probably would have grown so much by doing this. There's so many things that we really fear, but when we actually break it down into the minutia, it's like actually it's not that scary when I think about it, right? So that's unleashing that power, and really allowing fear to be seen for what it is, which is just a bunch of projections that are not based in reality. So really camp out there. Take your time and really walk yourself through. Okay, if this happens, if I lose my job because I'm going for my dream job, what will I do? How will I make ends meet? Okay, I can work and I can dog sit. I can do whatever you need to get out on paper to just show yourself, okay, if I'm faced with this challenge, this is how I will rise above. And you will rise above. Now, the fourth one is really important and very motivating. We're going to write down consequences of inaction. So this is where you want to write out what are the consequences of me just not taking action, me just coasting, me never pursuing this thing. There's definitely costs financially, emotionally, physically, relationally. So think about all those things that really would be impacted if you stay the same, if you let this fear take a hold of you. What would be the consequences of your inaction? And you can do 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever down the line will help you really to understand and wrap your head around, okay, if I don't do this thing, these are the consequences of my inaction. That's so motivating. So, once you have all of this written out, you can kind of camp out here and really look over your fears. And I really truly believe, because it happens for me every time that I do this exercise, as I'm reading through everything, I feel lighter. I feel like, oh my gosh, why did I fear this thing? Because if the worst case scenario happens, this is what I'm going to do. And if I don't take action, these are the consequences for my inaction. And it really allows you to just start taking steps, because inaction is one of those things where as soon as you start to just move the needle, take that first step, fear starts to dissipate with each and every step, even if they're baby steps. You guys know that I love Brene Brown. And one of my favorite things that she says, which I just think is such a beautiful note to end on, talking about our fears. She says, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightening about shrinking so other people won't feel unsure around you. You are born to manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. As we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Mm, that does not just light up your soul and hopefully give you this newfound freedom within your fears. I don't know what will. So go ahead, try out this practice of fear setting. Message me, DM me, let me know how it goes, tag us. And I would love to hear how this practice is really impacting you in your day to day life, always cheering you on in all of your dreams, goals, and aspirations. I hope that this helps you find more clarity and just allow the path before you to be a little bit more illuminated, so that way you know which way to go. Love to hear about what you learned and took away from this and how it's going to impact you as you move forward. So, thank you guys for tuning in today for this short and sweet one. I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the All Seasons podcast. I hope today's episode lit you up with inspiration and illuminated your path with clarity. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please share with a friend. And also be sure to hit subscribe and leave a review. You can stay connected with me over at Instagram at LoLo Pause or A Soulful Sorrow. May you find your soul shine in all seasons. Until next time.